Hello, hello. Welcome to your reading. I got my cat on my desk here, so Mika, move. Okay. So, everything looking good. Camera good. Lighting good enough. Okay, yeah. So let's start off by showing the chart as I do. All right. So very interesting. First thing you notice is a 0 degree Aquarius rising. Uranus ruling the chart, conjunct Mars in the 9th, Libra, conjunct the South Node. Then we got a moon conjunct Pluto in Capricorn. Very, in Virgo. Very interesting. And of course, the sun on the midheaven. Wow. Exactly on the midheaven. Conjunct Neptune as well. In Scorpio. In the 10th house. The first question is, how does a sun in Scorpio conjunct Neptune work with a moon in Virgo conjunct Pluto? Well, first you have to figure out, okay, you have outer planet conjunctions on both your sun and your moon. So the effect that has is that's going to make you way less of just a normal Scorpio sun, Virgo moon. And it's going to add a whole level of basically, like, okay, so let's start with the sun, right? So sun in Scorpio, everyone knows about their sun sign. I don't really need to go into what a Scorpio sun is. But the fact that Neptune is conjuncted, Neptune rules Pisces, right? So it actually works quite well, and it just will give you more imagination, a deeper connection to spirituality, a deeper connection to oneness, to collective energies. It means that it kind of makes it so spirituality and all of these things, whether it's all the Pisces stuff, if you want to call it that, plays an immense role in your life, in your personality, or in just your sense of identity and self. But because Neptune is not that far off of an energy of Scorpio, it's not going to be like some crazy thing. Like, for example, with all the people I have who have Capricorn suns conjunct Neptune, that is way more transformative. So it almost makes it so your sun is like, yeah, it's Scorpio sun, like, but kind of slash Pisces in a sense, not completely, but like it's a good reference point to think about it like that. And then the fact that's on the midheaven to the exact degree, that's a very strong placement of the sun. It means that the moment you were born, the sun was at the apex of the sky, the highest point in the sky from where you were on Earth, which is crazy. I'll show my face again, go back and forth between the chart and me. So in essence, one thing you have to look out for, which it's no mystery that a lot of my clients are people that have these signatures in their chart, and I say it in like so many of my readings, is the need for alone time, the need for for watching out. Like, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because on one end, you take in a lot of the energies. So whether if you're like in a very high spiritual place, like, I mean, like an actual physical place, like an ashram, or like, one of like the spiritual vortexes of the world, like if you're like or like around really amazing people, you can have this real you really take in the energy, right? But it's a double-edged sword because it also, we live in a world full of toxicity, and it can really make it so you need to spend a lot of time alone. Not all the time, but you do require it. Your chart really requires like a lot of reflection, a lot of internal transformation. So then, speaking of transformation, well, it's no surprise that you, a client of mine, as so many do, either have their sun or the moon in the 8th house. You have your moon in the 8th house in Virgo. Now, like I said, with your sun, your moon in Virgo is conjunct Pluto. So what does that do? Well, Pluto is it's Scorpio energy. It's at home in the 8th house. So it makes your moon almost like a Virgo / Scorpio moon. And Jupiter's not, it's 8 degrees away. So it's also kind of helping that process of death, rebirth, transformation, deep psychological self-analysis, and giving you a little bit more perspective on it, right? But anyone that has moon conjunct Pluto is someone who's gonna, really go deep into their inner resources, and they're here to karmically go through lots of changes. I'm going to turn one more light on 1 second. Yeah, that totally makes it perfect. Okay, so that's kind of like what you gotta say is that when Pluto's conjunct the moon, regardless of where it is, you're here to shed the skin, shed the snake, the snake shedding the skin, right? And the fact that it's in Virgo though is very interesting, because Virgo moons are, you've read in my post, Virgo can be associated with perfectionism a lot. Virgo can be very, it can be its own worst enemy. It can really demand so much for itself and have lots of inner self-criticism. It's very orderly. And there's often a strong bond between the emotions and the body. So we talk about like somatic psychology, like Virgo moon people have to really watch out for like workaholism and taking too much of their value from what they do. And what else could I add? Maybe, a lot of times Virgo moons have a critical mother, or come from like a critical mother, or whoever the moon is in the chart, whether it's the mom or the dad, it's different per person. And yeah, they really they can get really like anxious when things just aren't like, they have like typically have like a system, like an organized way, like maybe go to bed at this hour, do this at this hour, even though it's a mutable sign, they really understand like all the steps that it takes to get from point A to point B, right? That's like what Virgo is so good at. Now, anyone with Virgo as their sun or their moon, they need to really look at their opposite sign of Pisces, especially when it's conjunct, your moon conjunct Pluto, and say, okay, so what can Pisces, which is the same energy, right? It's just the opposite manifestation, learn. What can Virgo learn from Pisces? Well, the answer is Virgo can be so like when you're manifesting, and you're trying to like Virgo can be too oriented on the detail oriented, too much of like, how am I going to get there? And not enough about like, it's going to happen. That blind trust in the divine. That's what Pisces is. Pisces is, no matter what happens, I'm going to be fine. Right. So, with your moon, you're emotional. You've probably gone through lots of really intense, dramatic, emotional experiences that have led you to this place of, as I said, of like being a more evolved soul. And it can be really difficult as a Virgo moon to be in this world and to go through these experiences, and then to have this self-talk. So your self-talk plays a massive role. And I don't think you got a follow-up, but I highly suggest, and you can message me after if you want to get a follow-up. Most people do. I'd say probably 90% of people get follow-ups. I'm really serious these days, especially like most people do, because it's like this reading is like really good for getting information, but the other one is solving the other part of the puzzle, which is about like getting your experience and putting it together with this. So yeah, so Virgo Moon in the 8th house, you know, you're also like, so people with 8th house moons, they have an emotional need to really understand the cycles. I'm going to show the chart again. The cycles of death, rebirth, transformation, right? So they tend to be, where is it? They tend to be kind of intense people, right? But the thing is that the intensity is a little bit hidden, right? It's the moon. The moon is hidden. It's not seen. So sometimes people can meet you, and of course you are a Scorpio, so that intensity is going to be seen, especially on a midheaven, which is going to make you like a very like career oriented, like I don't like to use the word career, but ambitious, like success, whatever success means. Wait, hold on one second. I'm back. So as I was saying, I was talking about kind of this Capricorn energy. I got Mika on my lap now. Let's see. You see that? That is love. Okay, so Capricorn or not? Okay, so the sun in Scorpio on the midheaven. Now this is tremendous, because essentially what it's doing is, you know, it's making your your career and what you're here to do, your dharma. I forgot to say no career, no career. Your big picture life, like what you're doing on a public level, like of utmost importance. Now I was talking about kind of how, you know, the moon in the 8th house is like really all about secrets. It's all about uncovering. There's an emotional need to uncover, and Scorpio sun, it's like doubling down that you're very, very Plutonian and Scorpionic, right? This is obvious. A deep desire, a need. There's a need to uncover the secrets of esoteric and spiritual, and use these to kind of empower yourself, right? Like you can use astrology, you can use psychology, you can use tarot or whatever it is, magic, to help you get past any type of emotional limitation. So this is the thing with Virgo Moon, is that Virgo Moon is it can be very linked to anxiety. Not to say that everyone that has a Virgo Moon has an anxiety disorder, but there can be a lot of overthinking, right? Because the moon in Virgo is Mercury ruled. So when the moon is Mercury ruled, rules thinking, it rules communicating, it rules the brain, right? And Virgo is the most analytical sign. So it can make one trust logic as opposed to emotions, and over rationalize and over you use too much logic when it comes to emotions. So that's one thing to definitely watch out for. And with Pluto on the moon, that's just like a very, very karmic impetus. That's literally just kind of like the causes being like not only are we going to give you a Scorpio sun, not only are we going to give your sun or your moon in an earth sign 8th house, we're also going to throw Pluto, the planet of Scorpio, the planet of death, rebirth, and transformation, on your moon to just make sure that you know, like I haven't said this yet, but you know, moon conjunct Pluto. Typically, I've had a lot of these recently. Like if people watch these on YouTube, like watch my full readings, if anyone does, they'll notice a trend of how many of these readings in a row I've got that are moon conjunct Pluto. It just keeps happening. A lot of times it's in Scorpio though, but yeah. But basically what that, so what that can do is it can create kind of like a overly controlling mother. It can control, potentially manipulative mother, where there is like this domineering, right? This like maybe very, not really strict, but just like very like yeah, we're power games where maybe you felt a little bit unsettled in her presence, right? Where like you didn't know, like, yeah, you can trust your mom, but you didn't really know if you could really trust your mom to be consistent. A little Coca-Cola, my advice. No, I don't drink that much of it. Very little. It's a new thing too. But anyways, okay. So with all this said, as I was saying before, this moon is very hidden, right? So the perfectionism runs deep, and you read my post about that, so like, what I was talking about just like the 0 or 100 energy, and just having to learn about self-compassion, being your own best friend. But the fact that Jupiter is in this area too, is in this house, this 8th house, it's actually making it so you have this great opportunity, right? This great opportunity through Jupiter in 8th house gives incredible perspective, right? It gives whatever house it's in, it gives like in the 8th house is this very dark place. Not dark as in like, I mean, yeah, it has to do with like death. It has to do with the gates to the other side, kind of like the 12th house and 8th house are these like very spiritual houses, right? And they also have to do with like other people's resources. So a lot of times people with Jupiter there, they might like benefit from other people's resources, whether it's like an inheritance or, like in a business sense. But from an esoteric sense and spiritual sense, like 8th house Jupiter is like at home for psychologists or people who it kind of gives you, I always say it's like a flashlight or like one of those, whatever they're called, like a light in this very dark realm of the unconscious, and it allows you to kind of see more and have more light when it comes to your shadow work, which is very, very good, obviously, right? Also, it can make other people's money and resources really beneficial to you. And the fact that it's in Virgo gives you, that's like very much like another like huge thing for perfectionism. And I think you commented on my post. But like, overall, it's like, basically there's a huge desire to be of service, but there can also be this mega obsession because Jupiter makes everything bigger, makes everything more. So this mega obsession with detailed perfection. So that's one thing to watch out for. But it's in the 8th house. So, you might be someone that like has like an emotional need to like research stuff that relates to the 8th house. Cycles of life and death, and just like all these deep questions. You have a lot of depth. So what does that require when you have that? Well, it requires a lot of time alone. But with the fact that your sun is on the midheaven, that to me indicates that like you're meant on some level to have this deep transformation you go through. Like maybe you're like a therapist, and the only thing I know I used that you said you were sober. But like, so Dharma can also, like 10th house can also be about spirituality. It can be about your greatest achievements, like publicly, right? So sobriety could be that. So this over here, this 8th house with the moon conjunct Pluto, people who have this, sometimes it takes them like a long time to separate themselves, whether it's your mother or your father. I had a client who told me that it was actually her father, the moon. In my chart, my father is my moon. It's like the least dominant parent, which in today's day and age is not always the more feminine parent, I guess, with the more feminine role. So, with this said, there can be like a long period of time before one like realizes like, oh, this is my mom's shit. This is my mom's emotional baggage. This isn't mine, because they can really cling on to what's their mom's. So backing up a little bit, so we got the sun in which is in a beautiful sextile to your moon, which is a very, very advantageous combination of sun and moon, which typically means that there's a nice flowing relationship between mother and father. It would typically not have to do with like a divorce. It would typically be that they probably got along, at least them. And if you have to write down your main message from each of them, there would be somewhat of an accordance between them, right? Unlike if you're like me and you have a square between the two, or opposition, like my brother, same parents, see? So Then it comes to your Aquarius rising at 0 degrees. So first of all, because 0 degrees is a critical degree. And what a critical degree in astrology is, we're talking specifically about 0 and 29. 0 degrees is the start. 29 degrees obviously is accumulation. So it can almost be like it can be quite stressful, because it's like you have to kind of it's like you've done the whole test. You only have like 10 minutes left and you still have to answer all the questions you didn't answer. That's like a good metaphor of a 29-degree planet. But 0 degree is the opposite. It's a completely new energy, and you have two of them. You have your Venus and your ascendant, right? So these can be really, really raw energies where you're just kind of starting a new karmic journey with these elements, or with these energies. So when it's your ascendant in Aquarius, you put the two together, there can be a certain rawness and a certain, not weakness, but when young, it can make it difficult to really assert yourself and to really put your foot down. When your ascendant is Aquarius, it's super important to put your foot down, in the sense that you're not following trends. You're your own person. You're very individualistic. So, and you see things really deeply with all the Scorpio energy, right? Especially, the Scorpio Mercury too, and the sun and all that 8th house. Like, it's a very intense, it's a chart based on intense spiritual introspective, and trying to figure out how, what, spiritual system or whatever it may be is the best for you to move you forward. So with that ascendant, ruled by Uranus is conjunct your Mars in Libra, which is very interesting, conjunct South Node. And what that does is that makes your Uranus very powerful. So, and then Uranus connected to Mars, well, those two together, that's a very exciting, freedom-loving energy. So this creates this theme, though. It's also very dangerous, the two together, right? It's like this spark, right? It's like this very volcanic. It's like when you combine a volcano and a thunderstorm. And it's connected to your South Node, which is your past lives. So this is a really interesting one to unravel. So here, what I see is this karmic back and forth between a need to not people please, and a need to be your like people pleasing and kind of going with the flow of what other people's wants of you, or what other people want you to be, and you breaking away from that, you breaking away in your own kind of revolutionary way, right? So let me pull one thing open. So the fact that it rules your chart, Uranus, and in old astrology, it would be Saturn, which is in retrograde in the 3rd house, conjunct the North Node, loosely. But basically, the fact that your South Node is there, it's conjunct the Mars-Uranus conjunction. It's saying that, in past lifetimes, there has been, in the 9th house, there has been this individual who, I might even think is going too much with what other people say in terms of belief systems. Because 9th house rules belief systems, and Libra, Mars connected to your South Node, Libra Mars is very, very indecisive. And a lot of times they'll just get to the point where they're like, okay, I'm just gonna let the other person decide for me. And so the 9th house, that's about beliefs, right? That's about the belief systems. That's about your truth, your ultimate truth. So it's a very, very important house. So to have South Node there, you know, it represents a quest in this life to understand human interactions, right? And really leaving behind whatever belief systems you brought into this lifetime. And also, you know, North Node in the third house in Aries is about finding viable forms of communication. You know, it's like really finding your voice. Your third house, like Libra is like the powerful sign of like taking back what's yours, right? And being dominant in a sense. So it's really a quest in this life to become very assertive and self-empowered. So you see how this is connecting to the rest of the first part of the chart, where I was talking about that Scorpio diving deep into yourself, shadow work is so huge for you. Like, and that's why I think that you said you choose sobriety. I think that was you. It was, I think. That's very important because that was meant to be. Because that process, without that process, you know, you could just live your life like, okay, going doing this and this and that and that and this and that. That actually forced you to basically take a deep, real, like I've been in the sober system before. You know, I had my problems with Xanax like a long time ago. And in essence, this has forced you to take a deep psychological look at yourself with no BS, no lies. And the goal with the North Node and Aries in the third house is to become very assertive and self-empowered in your speech and your way of thinking, and like throat chakra, like really asserting your throat chakra. Because there can be a huge tendency to be indecisive. That's Libra Mars is very indecisive. But the Uranus, the fact that karmically you were born with Uranus on your Mars, that's trying to liberate your Mars. Mars is that power, that leftover animal instinct, that very masculine part in all of us that wants at its best to just do what it wants to do. I mean, not in a reckless way, but you know, it goes after what it wants to go after. Assertiveness. So yeah, there can be a past life tendency of always considering the needs of other people before yours. And it's all about like discovering, and that can keep one away from discovering their own identity, which is a huge part of your chart. You know, Aquarius rising in Uranus conjunct the Mars, conjunct the South Node. So it's like, in this life, it's really about following this aspect between Mars and Uranus, the positive side of it, which we'll get into in a sec, and discovering a sense of your own identity, like initiating your own projects, initiating things that, whatever it is that comes from your own inner self, which is why your chart is showing this deep, like I'm telling you, all you've gone through, it was meant to be. This, let me share my chart again for a second. So all this house right here, the fact that Jupiter's there, that's helped you achieve what you achieved in your sobriety and achieved psychologically and achieved spiritually. That's helped you. And it's 29 degrees. So you see how you have a lot of 29 degree and 0 degrees? You have 4 of each or 2 of each. It's a lot. So 29 degree Jupiter in Virgo, it means that there is a certain level of completion as it comes to the Virgo energy. And when I think of the pure Virgo energy, the best Virgo energy that you're trying to figure out is getting past perfectionism. And the whole thing that I think I made a video or post about, I think it was a written post. I've been writing so much lately, I forget what's what. But I was saying how people who have this, they have to like look at each day or each week or whatever. And you're going to be analytical. That's just, but that's not bad. That's good. But you have to use the analysis. I'll share myself again. The analysis in a way that's healthy. For example, and I say this in so many readings, but it's very, very, very important. Like, okay, what's the best I can, like at the end of each day, like looking at it, maybe journaling and be like, okay, today, the best I could do if you use numbers, like let's say your best you could do was a 5 out of 10. still loving yourself. Like self-compassion, the best metaphor is, how can I love myself the same way I would love a best friend? You know, if they didn't have such a good day where they didn't accomplish everything that they wanted to accomplish, what would you say to them? You know, like in the ways you're hard to yourself, or maybe you've gone past this, but like still, I give the same readings to a 2-year-old as I give to a 6-year-old, or a 50-year-old, a 40-year-old, 30. It's during the follow-up, which is why I suggest you get it. That, you know, we really like mix the pieces together of your experience and what I'm saying. But that completion is like, it's trying to get you to go towards purity, right? Like of like each day, like it's like earth magic, or utilizing like the magic you find in the earth, and in trying to find purity. That's Virgo. I think of it as like this white dove energy. That's like the metaphor I have for Virgo. And it's very spiritual too. So it's like, how can you borrow from Pisces of that trust with God, right? That trust of the divine, that even if like it doesn't make exact sense how you're going to get from point A to point B, you know you're going to get there, right? You know you're going to get there. And just that blind faith, which comes from within, from meditation, from also, you know, and this is like the thing with the Virgo moon, you can use it to your advantage. Like you can use it by analyzing, not over analyzing, but still analyzing your life and be like, okay, what experiences in my life, especially with a Scorpio that loves to go deep into research and stuff, like what experiences in my life, like maybe you write, maybe you get to writing. I mean, that's what your North Node is asking you to be a writer. And it doesn't have to be a writer that writes a book and publishes it. It can be a writer that writes something, that journals and just starts journaling every day. You do like a minimum, like, you know, because this is the best way to get past the Virgo perfectionism. You do okay, minimum, I'm going to write for 3 minutes every day. It can be like a fucking like poem, like if I'm feeling lazy, or it can be something like way deep. Minimum 3 minutes, right? And through that, you're getting deeper into your transformation, but you're also like getting deeper into that anti like perfectionism. And yeah, in essence, I think that could be like a really, really strong point. But the thing is, you know, with your Saturn there in the 3rd house, that could have really pushed you back, especially when early. And I saw your comment about my Saturn retrograde post, so I don't need to like repeat that, but you understand what that entails. You know, a lot of times it's like, you know, it's very common, but in this way of life, you were meant to be in a position where, you know, you may have like mistrusted you may have been very shy with your communication, with your speaking when younger, in your formative years and like your younger school years. There may have been some tension with your siblings. And it could have restricted your free thought and your free communication. And in this lifetime, you're trying to like dig into that, right? You're trying to dig into that and break that. And after 30 years old is probably when it got a lot easier for you with the Saturn return. Let me think about something for 1 second. Okay. So yeah, but that's so you see Saturn's like it's in the same house as your North Node. So it's literally saying you're trying to get past that Saturn. You know, so it's like restricted communication in early childhood, fear of expressing yourself. And you know, that's why the writing is so important, because it's like you gradually, like with that Saturn push, build a skill in communicating through hard efforts, right? So that's why I say, like with the Virgo energy, like it's like setting the bar really, really low. Like when I tell people who are like I run, you know, when I tell people, okay, a little from my life, like I run, but I cover the amount of time I'm running with I put a book or something over the timer, because I don't want to know how long I'm running. I want to do it for me. I want to feel like the music, whatever I'm listening to on YouTube. I want to do it. And then I realized that like maybe a year ago, I was like started tracking how long I was running, and I started like writing it, because I'm a Pisces, so I can have like a lot of Virgo traits, right? I guess I'm my opposite sign. And I started like writing and very organized. I started like writing like, okay, this day I did this much, this day I did this much. And then I started losing passion for the running. And since then, I just haven't done that. I just run, I try to run as much as I can. Ideally, I would love to run 30 minutes minimum every day, but usually it becomes like every 2 days I run for like over an hour. But, I might try to break that. But the point is like, that's kind of how it could be for you in writing or some form of communication. And what that does, I'm going to keep going back and forth. I know you can see my mouse. So this is the house that like where all the growth is. When you're doing that, that's creating discipline. Saturn North Node is getting hit, and then you're digging into this, right? That death, rebirth, and transformation, which I said, like, even if you haven't done a lot with your career, or like if you're not CEO of Google or whatever, like I have no idea. I don't know anything about you. I do that on purpose. There's a reason that like people ask ask me why, or don't really ask, like a few people ask me, not that many people, but like people might wonder why I follow. I don't really go on my newsfeed. I talk about that. Like I don't really go on my newsfeed very much for my Just as an Astro. And like I'll follow clients or people, different people that I meet on there on my personal account. It's because I don't really want to know. Like before I've done, like if it's someone's chart that like someone who I like, who's on my Instagram who I might follow, I don't want to know about their life because it can get in the way of how I do astrology, which is objective. I don't want to like see a photo because that might make me like kind of like mislead me. Of course, I still do readings if it's someone I know, but like it's just different. I prefer this way. It's more interesting. And tests my ability more, but more of like, the objective part. But basically like, this writing or this whatever this creative outlet you can find is, right? And you have Neptune, or Gemini ruling your 5th house. So you could be someone who definitely has like a exciting way of finding this creative outlet. You can definitely like heal this. And this was meant to happen. I want to repeat this a million times. Pluto so close to your moon in Virgo, like if we do the follow-up, and if not, I want you to write me a long essay. I give my clients homework. Like either you do a follow-up or you do both. I think it's the best thing. Speaking of writing, you should write me something if you have time and energy. A reflection on this reading. I love reading them. I love when my clients write me long feedbacks and break down each part of it. That's Virgo energy at its best, right? Using that analysis to kind of journal, like, this is like kind of what I did right. Gratitude, you definitely know this. That is so important because Virgo sometimes can overlook that incredibly important thing of gratitude. I don't care what, how bad you think you did in a day, right? I'm saying you, but I mean it generally, humans. You still at the end of the day can go, if you're like me, I take my shower before bed and I don't have any technology on. And I just start speaking out loud about what I'm grateful for and whatever comes to my head, whoever, whatever. And I believe that that's a superpower. That's magic. Gratitude is magic because the absence of gratitude is unhappiness. When you have gratitude, it's impossible to be unhappy. And it's a muscle that you have to work on, right? It's like lifting weights, literally. Like if you don't do it and you just say like, oh yeah, I'm grateful. No, it's not something you can say. It's something you have to do. It's an action. It's literally an action. So that when Virgos start to really bring gratitude, appreciation for the small things, because they can use that Virgo energy to really look at the small things. Appreciation for the struggle, right? Because we all know the resentments are poison that we're hoping that other people, I always butcher my quotes. Resentments are poison that we drink and hope that affects someone else negatively, right? I don't know if it's your mom. I'm guessing it is, or some relationship, some emotional issue you had when you were young that was really intense and too much for young Chrisann to handle, right? But you got through it. You're sober. You've accomplished that. And with midheaven in Scorpio, that could have been a major part. Maybe You had past lives of addiction, or something similar, a different version that you broke. Maybe it was generational. You have no idea how powerful breaking a cycle truly is on a karmic level. None of us know. We think we know. Oh yeah, I just got sober. What if like 10 lifetimes in a row, whatever, you were addicted to whatever, and the life's like ended tragically or something? Like, what if? I'm not saying that's the truth. What if you broke something that like runs in your family genes, and now you're like allowing, like, you know what I mean? There's so many endless combinations. So the writing and communicating and finding your voice is so important. Now, okay. So we understand this, and this 8th house, ruled by Virgo. Let me show you my face again. That will give you like lots of clarity when it comes to shared resources. It's really, really good for like business and stuff, I gotta say. Also, there's like when we talk about relationships, which I haven't even touched on, and we're like 45 minutes in. Relationships with a Virgo moon, they need to have that raw, back up, Jesse, back up. Have a sip of your Coca-Cola. Let's not say that, because Virgo moon is the rock, but it's in the 8th house. Virgo moons need someone who understands their need for their system, their need to have things a certain way, and who in some way, like, okay, opposites do attract. So I like love astrology, it is what it is, but they have to at least respect that part, and they have to at least respect your intensity and your need for sometimes kind of probably like breaking away. You're probably like similar to me. There's a reason that the people who choose me to do their charts choose me. There's a there's a resonance, right? So with the Neptune conjunct your sun, like someone who understands like the need for time alone, the need to separate into your own fantasy world, imagination at times, right? These things. So yeah. So okay, so I wanted to, let's see one thing really quick. So it's mostly conjunctions that you have, but then Venus is has some squares, square Uranus, square. Okay, so your Venus, so the love life, there can be, okay, let's talk about love. Actually, before that, I want to talk about the Mars, and it's, okay, so Chiron has lots of stuff going on. Okay, so the Mars and the Uranus. So this is what I was getting at, right? So this talks about like, and this is very related to relationships. There's this really strong urge to break free from whatever you feel holds you back. With that said, this isn't a square or an opposition, so it can give exceptional creative talents, right? And it gives someone who's especially when you're an Aquarius rising, which, Uranus is your ruling planet, this is a major part of you, a very interesting life. Also, it gives it's very sexual energy, I gotta say, and it creates kind of like an electric energy that can really inspire other people. It's very exciting. It's very entertaining. And there needs to be an outlet, a positive outlet. That's kind of what I get at when I see Mars conjunct Uranus, is that there's a strong desire for anything unusual, right? There can also just be like this love for like receiving like this recognition for you being different, and like feeding off of that, right? And acting without restriction, right? And mega independent. So how does that work in relationships? Well, you hate being held back. But so like you need to like be able to be your eccentric self within a relationship, and within like family home is possible, but like it's like stable family life is possible so long as you can be your eccentric self. So that's another like clue to the love thing. Passion for the occult. This is like very strong occult powers, potential psychic abilities for sure. I think I talked about this in one of my posts. very anti-rules, and yeah, just so much energy, right? Like so much rebellious energy. But like I said, like earlier in youth, which maybe like, you know, with like all I know about you is that you're sober. Maybe that, you know, it's very impulsive too, and it wants to do so. Like it's very rebellious. So maybe this energy was an energy that kind of like was like, fuck that, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna break away from like what my family or whoever wants me to do. And if it's Pluto on your moon, it could have been a controlling mother that was always telling you, do this, do this, do that. And maybe you're like, fuck that, I want to smoke weed, I want to do this, and then you took things too far. Who knows? Yeah, so it's a very fiery energy, these two together. And it can really create like a creative genius. But like I said before, it's like a volcanic explosion fueled by thunder. That's my made up thing for this. So there can be like really impulsive bursts, and that leads to issues, right? And as I said before, and I'll keep saying it, this isn't a conjunction. So these are the fusion, not a square or an opposition, where it's like they're like against each other or you know, with friction. So you can fuse these two energies, like so it's like so important to, you know, because like Mars is like this goal oriented energy, right? So it's like really important. Like this can kind of like take you all over the place. So it's very important to have that focus. But you'll always be the one that's different. You'll always be like controversial, and it can definitely kind of be like a black sheep in the family type energy. But yeah, super volatile. And I'm looking through my notes with this. It will be seen as though an on-off switch is being internally activated by an unknown hand. Yes, it's all about like, it's very unpredictable. So it's like grounding yourself is so important, right? And you do, and that's where your Virgo moon is very positive, because that's Earth moon. So that gives like kind of a natural grounding. So that's really good. Okay. What else can I add to this? Yeah, so like impulsive, like, you know, actions can be taken without thought or consideration, a lack of sensitivity to others. And as a Scorpio, you know, there can be like impulsive, like kind of like psychological manipulative stuff in relationships, especially with all the Venus aspects you have. Like attempts to release the energy through verbal, emotionally directed violence towards a partner are common. Super independent energy, as I said before. So like really anti-authority, anti-establishment, like the rebel, you know, in the Aquarius rising at 0 degrees, like that can, like I said, you know, that can make it difficult to like have the goals met, especially when young, right? The goals associated with that independence, with that kind of like being different. Yeah. So I think you understand what I'm saying here. It's like at some point you have to look at like, what of my actions am I doing just to be against what they want me to do? Like, and which ones are like what are really my best interests, right? But yeah, oh, I see another thing, a need for speed. So yeah, to watch out for accidents, and yeah, you get the point. I've really stressed this reading, this one, because it's very, very important. And it's all about breaking free, you know, and it keeps you like kind of constantly throughout your life, like wanting a new life, wanting one. And this is also with the 8th house moon. 8th house moon people emotionally, they feel throughout their life like they lived like multiple lives within one life. like they were like on an emotional level, a different person at one era. Like there's these different eras they break them up into, right? Yeah. So super, like you really want to like live a life based on your own originality. So it's very, very interesting. So it rules your chart. And you know, with the Aquarius rising, also, you know, it's the people who like, you know, have colored hair, unconventional approach to life, very anti-traditional, you know, very, very friend oriented, very, very humanitarian, very liberal, not like liberal, like, you know, like a Democrat, just like very liberal, like letting people have freedom type stuff. Yeah. And hate following rules. And they're the water bears, the ones that are different. So we see how this connects. And it's in the ninth house, this Mars, right? So it's like, so the karma, it's like, so this, the reason that you were born with this Uranus conjunct Mars is to release that Mars, which is linked to your past lives of acquiescing to other people's needs instead of your own, right? Libra, South Node, ninth house, which makes perfect sense to me. And especially in relationships. So let's talk about past life relationships. It may have been an area where, and we'll get to Venus now, where you acquiesced too much and where you took too much of your identity and didn't have your own voice enough. Think of the wife in like the traditional marriage who just doesn't have her own kind of like a masculine side, and then the husband who doesn't have his own feminine side, and right, that kind of thing. So when we connect it to Venus, you know, Venus is square Mars, and Venus is in the 12th house. So you have a very, very difficult Venus, right? So already your 7th house is ruled by Leo, which is, you know, in very strong, you know, Leo, or ruled by Leo. So the sun in the 10th house rules your 7th house. So connecting those two houses, you know, those are two cardinal houses. You know, relationships and career having some kind of like potentially, I guess what you could say, like connection in some way. But you know, it makes one very enthusiastic, a very generous partner, someone that likes to really have fun with their partners. They can get really bored if the partnerships lack fun or romance, and they really need a lot of attention for their loved ones. Now, Virgo Moon can be very, very critical of loved ones. When Virgo Moon doesn't understand their own limitations, especially when young, like they can start to really be really nitpicky in relationships and see, oh, you know, I thought I liked this person, but I noticed this thing about them or that thing. You know what I mean? And they start to make these lists of what are the things they notice that are wrong about the person. Also, the fact that 8th house moon and all that stuff, the 8th house, that gives you like a need for really intense. So there's like this fun, this Leo descendant is going to make you really want to have fun in relationships. But then there's this real need for that person to have this intense need, or at least understanding of your like Scorpio energy, which is such a huge aspect of your chart. The death, rebirth, transformation, the going to the undergrounds. So if it's someone who's like just like all like not really like very kind of like emotionally detached, this it like you know, anything can work with anything. It's just saying that like you know, the person has to be at a certain maturity level where they can at least respect that. You know, I don't think people have to just only be with a person whose zodiac sign or whose astrology is similar to theirs, right? It can be really anything. It's just, you know, based on so many other factors. And also, you know, vertex in Virgo is going to make you kind of come off. That's kind of like how your ascendant in relationships is the vertex. I had a post about that recently too. You're going to really want like intense experiences within your relationships. And you're going to really play the role of like healer in relationships, but also you can also play the role and come off as kind of like critical and kind of like perfectionist, and but also like maybe your love language has a lot to do with actions. Like me, that's like mine is like I show my love more by like what I'm willing to do and that things like that than like, you know, But with the Scorpio, obviously Scorpio is a deeply, deeply, deeply like close sign that wants to, really, really be touchy feely, and it's the most intimate sign of them all. So you see how there's all these conflicted energies. Well, now 0 degree 12th house. Yeah. 0 degree 12th house. And you have one of these rare charts because you're a 0 degree ascendant. Your chart does not change barely changes from whole signs. I mean, actually that's not true because the actual size of the houses can change and whatnot. But yeah, it won't be as much change in terms of like from whole signs, which I look at whole sign houses and like Coach or Placidus or whatever. But anyways, like, so 0 degrees Venus is, it's a very raw energy, and, it's difficult in love. It kind of like, it's difficult in love. And I want to see one quick thing. Maybe I should put this on pause for just a second. Okay, I'm gonna do that. Okay, I was just verifying something. Okay, so I'm back. So anyways, so yeah, so the Venus over here, I can share again. I wish I could. If anyone knows, I don't know who watches this. If anyone makes it this far, maybe I think people do. Some people do. I hope. I would think. But anyways, if anyone knows how to make the Zoom, so I can present and then have like a little square of my face in the corner while like the rest of it's the chart, that'd be really cool. I should probably look that up on my own. I could probably figure it out really easy. But anyways, okay, so you see Venus here in the 12th house. That's a difficult place, and it's 0 degrees, which means it's in Capricorn, which is already a very difficult Venus placement for, because Venus represents love, but it starts with self-love. That's a lot of people don't know that Venus is about self-love. So when you have it in Capricorn, Capricorn creates restrictions. So it creates lots of restrictions around self-love. So it was probably difficult for you in relationships until around 30 years old. Your Saturn return, you probably had like difficulty with self-love and confidence too, which totally matches, what we see down here with the kind of fear of self-expression, all that. Especially if you're a Scorpio sun with a Virgo moon, you might be someone who's overanalyzing, overthinking everything, and who just has these really intense, emotions, and who is really just a sponge for energy. So it's difficult, and that's probably like, Neptune rules substances. So like, and it rules that. So there's a high and there's a low version of the Neptune conjunct sun. The high one is having your dreams and your imagination, your high spirituality be a big part of your identity in your lifetime, in your life. The low is escaping into the, the dream world, the imagination world, but choosing like that's something you have to do regardless. But it's like negative versus positive escapism, because you're a Neptunian at the end of the day too. At the end of the day too. So like you're someone who's used to like the higher spiritual realms, right? And Earth is so imperfect, and you can take on so much of the energy. It's just so difficult. So a lot of people that like I wish more. I mean, I have no idea how many people that are in recovery or who've gone through addictions. I wish more came to me, because I could really help push away their shame, because I can show like how it was meant to be, how like the fact that you had this conjunction made it so difficult for you to not take in what wasn't yours, especially with the moon, conjunct Pluto, and right. And then this Venus, this adds to it, because Venus square Mars, well, Mars is with the Uranus, it's a very interesting energy. And Venus, in Capricorn is this very weak energy at 0 degrees, not weak in a bad way, just very new, like to the sign of Capricorn, creating lots of like issues with how you love yourself that then get projected into your relationships, right? And you add to that the kind of like, when a Virgo moon is not loving themselves, they tend to kind of, take out, noticing all the little small things, like seeking too much idealism in a partner. Now, you you know, so Venus, am I still sharing? Okay, that's enough. So Venus in the 12th, right? So it's creating an energy. It can kind of make you like become consumed with lots of things. On one end, it's a very beautiful spiritual energy, and it gives you like this real ability to have Venus in the 12th and Jupiter in the 8th. That's like natural psychologist, natural healing energy, right? And especially with your Chiron at 29 degrees Pisces, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But really, like, you know, you're and that's a huge degree, 29 degrees Pisces at Chiron. That's like really like you're here on this like deep karmic, like some like final stage karmic healing stuff, right? Especially being a Scorpio. I've never called it Scorpio before. That's weird. But yeah, Venus in the 12th house, like you know, Venus in Capricorn, it's gonna make you even more shy in relationships, like form relationships slowly. And you know, but like when you do form them, they're likely to be enduring. But they won't be solid till like later in life, right? After you know, like at least until after the Saturn return. It's very good for money, also for like being responsible with money and possessions. So I imagine that that's something that's good. But yeah, like Venus in the 12th, square Mars, that kind of like puts tension between, you know, like what you value and what you value in yourself, what you value in others, and what you go after. Because as a Mars in Libra, right? That's the highest vibration of Mars in Libra is that creative outlet, right? It's finding that creative outlet. That's the highest manifestation. The lowest is what I've already explained. And it's in its fall position in Libra because it's in dignity in Aries, right? So Venus in the 12th, like I actually dated a girl a while ago that had Venus in the 12th house, and it was in Virgo, not Capricorn, but it's still Earth, so it's pretty similar. And she would constantly just like, well, it didn't last long, but she would constantly like kind of berate me and like tell me all these like little things that are like bad about me, right? And kind of like that's more Virgo, but Capricorn can kind of be similar, right? So it makes one she was in like 12th house Venus can make one their own worst enemy in relationships and self-sabotaging energy. And the fact that it's square Mars, square Jupiter is not it's not a bad square. That's a good, that's like the only square in astrology that's actually good. So you know that if anything just can, yeah, doesn't have to really be gone into that much. But it's square, you know, it's square Uranus too. So in the square Chiron. So this is bringing up a lot of a T square with Chiron, Venus, and Mars / Uranus. So it shoots out into Cancer in the 6th house. So basically, like, you know, the way to resolve all your love issues is when you're Cancer 6th house is about being on like a Virgo routine lesson, like emotionally have like a routine that is emotion, like that feeds your emotional nourishment, that nourishes you emotionally, right? Like a very comfortable routine that's more directed to the heart chakra than just like the mind. And that will fix a lot of these issues. But also, like anything with a 12th house is being of service. Like being of service is like the ultimate, especially with Virgo energy and 12th house energy. It's being of service is the way to kind of like get past it. So yeah, with the Venus and Mars, that it brings lots of love hate feelings in relationships, right? Like where there can be like a rapid escalation, temper tantrums, but yeah, because you know it's Mars and Libra. The Mars in Libra hates that, right? The Mars in Libra hates like the impulsive. 1 second, I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that. So the Mars in Libra hates disputes. It wants everything, and this is like the past life energy, right? It wants to put other people's needs before its own. But then when it's square the 12th house Venus, it can create these like I said, these like explosions, and when it's conjunct Uranus, and then that really puts you at unease emotionally and gives shame. But that's a karmic impetus. That's a karmic like mechanism to get you to get over this and to move into that north node of having your own back and not always giving so much of a fuck about what the other person thinks, so the lesson is it's all about gaining self-control over volatile passions. Like that's a big part of your chart, like that we've seen in a lot of places. And it's all about like open and honest sharing of the deep feelings, right? That's really what gets it, like the communication, which you have this Mercury in Scorpio too, which is like gives a very intense communication. We'll talk about that in a sec. So yeah, it can bring like lots of love-hate relationships. And yeah, so it's all about having like a very understanding partner. So then, moving on from that, the fact that Venus is square Chiron, that just speaks to like just how there's pain and there's suffering that occurs in relationships, plain and simple. And yeah, so it's like 12th house Venus is like they have to work in Capricorn. They have to work extra hard to love themselves. So once they do, they really have the ability to have relationships that just last so long term, because that's what Saturn does, right? Saturn is long term. So yeah, and then of course Venus square Uranus, that's its own thing, right? Venus square Uranus, it's more of that energy of that back and forth between like when you feel too boxed in a relationship, it's like almost like peace out, right? So it can bring lots of instability in relationships, and almost a constant need of like stimulation in relationships. And big time need for strong strong personal independence, and like not wanting to be like traditional and wanting to like live, have relationships like be your, what you consider good, like your version of them, and like a big need for stimulation. So that's really important. Less sip of Coke. So yeah, like when you're feeling like tied down or smothered, it really doesn't feel good for you. And it can really lead to like horrible feelings. So it's all about like compromise, right? And this is like with North Node in Aries, it's saying that in past lives, like you've been too much on like the side I already told you about. In this life, you're supposed to like have your own back more. So the ideal relationship is where both partners are really able to express their uniqueness and enjoy freedom. So thinking like outside the box of like, what feels like what feels right to you? Do you want to have separate rooms? Do you want to spend time away from each other? Like whatever makes things work, because in relationships, there's no formula that just works. Like I might write a book about this stuff one day, like the Aquarian relationship, right? Because a lot of people have it. And I just don't think the traditional get married, sleep in the same bed forever. I just don't think that works for everyone. I think it works for some people, but I just don't think it works for everyone. I think I think spending too much time with one person for some people can, be bad. So yeah. So loving freedom. So very good, very good. So okay. The Mercury, we have it unaspected. So someone with an unaspected Mercury and Scorpio. So Mercury and Scorpio is going to be a little bit reserved anyways. They're going to think really, really deeply. They're not going to be loudmouths, but when they know exactly what to say. But the fact that you have it unaspected, it's basically like a rocket that's launching. It's like a government. It's like Trump is president with no Congress. Like he can just do whatever he wants, right? There's no checks and balances, right? Or like any president, like it's not balanced. So your communication, your thought, like can just not get checked by anything. So you can just like say things like kind of unfiltered and without much thought, and there can be an impulsivity in speech, which can also lead to kind of some interesting situations that might bring shame. So yeah, of course, Mars opposite Chiron. So Chiron we have to talk about. So Chiron's a big deal here in your chart. It's at the 29 degree. It's a very critical degree, and it's the last degree of the whole zodiac of Pisces. So basically, like what I get from that is that you're on your spiritual healing. You're close. Like you're at a very, very huge point in your spiritual karmic healing. And you have this real ability to feel others' pain. But it can be a little bit overwhelming. So there's a big need to detach and meditate and get into your own energy, right? But it's all about like Chiron Pisces can really have issues with like there can be pain around their own sense of individuality, and like there can be spiritual pain too. So pain around like belief systems, pain around trust, pain around the deepest spiritual pains. But when you overcome it, and it's in the second house, which can be about financial insecurity, but also like self-esteem and needing to go within and find like your own self-worth from within, not relying on someone else, aka South Node and Libra would totally do that. But just completely from within. And in Pisces, it's from that deep spirituality, that being of service. That's where it's found. And in the 29 degree part, it means that like you're at the end of this, like you're at the final level of the Pisces, the last sign of this healing of this wounded warrior. So like energy. So it's like, I don't know, I definitely see you as a force, like a big part of your life probably had to do. And I obviously know that I know nothing about you besides that you, like I said, that you had issues with addiction. But a big part has to do with like getting past your own issues, your own traumas, your own whatever vices. But after that, there's potential for mega growth. Or not growth, excuse me, mega like being a spiritual leader, like teacher, and helping other people. So that's really, really great. Okay, so second house Pisces. So that can make you kind of confused about money matters. So there can be that confusion. And it is conjunct your sun. So Neptune is. So I would find that actually to be quite strong because that makes the planet quite strong conjunct the sun. Aries ruling the third house, that makes one a fast talker. Someone who wants to initiate ideas and communications. But of course, with Saturn there, it's going to restrict a lot of that. With the North Node there, it's going to be like, that's like your mountain never climbed in past lives. That's where you're trying to get to. Taurus ruling the fourth house, which is where, by the way, this solar eclipse on Saturday is going to fall for you, is about like being a very responsible, reliable family member. But also, it's ruled by Venus in the 12th, which can create some difficult karma potentially between family members, maybe siblings. with Saturn there. You'll really value your home and like kind of having that nest, that home nest, and wanting a home that reflects that kind of like sensual earthy nature. So Gemini ruling the 5th house with Mercury in the 10th, like it can give you real, you really like to play, very quick thinking mind, creative mind, but someone who potentially like really likes to have a mix of fun and maybe make your passions your work, and dig deep into yourself, in a fun way, and a like kind of bringing like lightheartedness to like really like more intense kind of subjects. And then Black Moon Lilith is in that house. So Black Moon Lilith, of course, represents like you at your worst. It's like kind of like where you self-sabotage, like where I always describe it as like when you let yourself go, what energy comes out. So it's like the low energy of Gemini, which can be like the trickster, not using communication to the best of your ability, right? It can be like dishonesty, kind of trying to get people to move to your way of thinking about different things and situations. Yeah. So learning to listen and respect other people's opinions is super important. It can be kind of like a stubborn energy. And like very, very like argumentative. And then I have another thing I always look at for this. But this one breaks each one into a fear. So fear of rejection. So this is terrified of other people's opinions. They want to be accepted and liked by everyone. They may reject people before they have the chance to be rejected. They struggle defining what their own individuality and tastes are, as their mindset is too often focused on other people. One must ask themselves, am I doing this for me or for someone's approval? Which totally goes to the Libra South Node, right? You see this all connecting. One second. So if that's that house, your 6th house, which we talked about, is Cancer, ruled by the moon, in Virgo. So that makes me think that in terms of your health, there'll be a connection between your mind, like psychosomatic, like your psychology and your body. There'll be a huge connection between the two. And just I already talked about like how you really like to take care of your loved ones on a daily basis. You might be someone that like adds this kind of mother instinct into your daily life, daily work life. Maybe you're like caring for people in your in your job or whatever, who knows. Yeah, okay. So Leo in the 7th house I already talked about. That's the one about like wanting like generous, like enthusiastic partner, fun in your relationships, blah blah blah. Virgo, I already talked about that. 8th house, kind of an organized approach to this, like these like kind of death, rebirth transformations. And I have to look at the fixed stars too. I'll do next. 9th house ruled by Libra, that like would make you really want to travel with your partner, and also like have like shared philosophies and stuff of that nature in relationships, but also just in general. And of course, we already talked about Uranus in there. That can give like lots of unusual and original philosophies. Like that's a really, really interesting place to have Uranus in 9th house. And you'll definitely, like if you were raised like in a highly religious like family, you would be the one to 100% rebel. And it's really, really, it could give like sudden bursts of like, with the Mars there, it can make you really, really want to like have sudden, like impulsive, like travel bursts away. So then, and eccentric philosophies and just like your own person when it comes to that. So then, Scorpio ruling the 10th house, your career has to be one, you'll have an intense need for recognition in your work. It's all about digging deep. And and finding a professional life that reflects that, like research, something that connects well with your, all that eighth house energy and that Scorpio sun, which is, your sun's in this house. So with Neptune conjunct the midheaven and the sun, it would mean that your career is meant to be something that's for the best of humanity. Lots of people that have Neptune in the 10th house, they yearn to be of service through their profession. So it's more about like metaphysical value than making like $1 million per year. And sometimes they have to like require that they require, sometimes there's like a requirement to sacrifice something in their chosen profession or career. Part of fortune's also in that 10th house. So that's kind of saying that like in Scorpio, like your greatest joy, like that flow state comes when you're able to really tap in to this deep psychological growth, this like regeneration, right? This transformation, which is like another key, right? We've said that so many times. Evolving. And 10th house, like achieving your personal, like worldly goals brings you lots of joy. And it's an area where, it's very, very good. It's conjunct Neptune. So that just is also saying that like spirituality, high spirituality and mysticism is like something that brings extreme, it's where you're very, very comfortable. 11th house ruled by Sag. So you also have a planet I haven't talked about, which is Juno, or an asteroid. And Juno in the 11th house, Juno represents like what we look for like in a marriage partner. So, on the 11th house, it'd be someone that shares like similar goals, similar ambitions. Maybe you meet them, you're like in a similar kind of group or organization. But in Sagittarius, it's like kind of like what you look for, like you look for someone who's open-minded and who's maybe from a different culture and who's very curious about the world. And maybe sharing similar goals and ideals, but really like the Sagittarius part. And then the 12th house, ruled by Capricorn, is very karmic. Sometimes there can be like an inhibition and ignorance of your inner urges. It can lead to paranoia. So it's all about like reconciling yourself with parts of yourself which you've cut yourself off from. Because there can be some level of like pushing that like parts of yourself away, and especially with Venus there. And Venus also there can be like a very, very strong connection to your dream life. So like dream journaling and stuff like that could be amazing. And I talked about Venus and Capricorn. Responsible in relationships, like really, really wanting someone who understands that and who values that in you as well. So, okay, let's open up this. Okay. Oh, let me click on this. Oh. Okay, nothing there so far. Looking for fixed stars to see if there's any like conjunctions, like really important conjunctions. Okay. Also North Node conjunct Eris, like that's interesting. That's kind of like more of this, like you're meant to become this like just someone who just has your own back. It's like assertiveness, like divine. It's like divine masculine, divine feminine, masculine energy. I know like that doesn't make sense, but like the feminine that can have their own back but still stay strong in the feminine. Where's Jupiter? Nothing. Okay, let's see my other asteroids. Okay. Hard to see because there's so many of these. They're not like many of these. I'm not really seeing many fixed stars that are making any meaningful junctions. I need to see about something. What's this? See, I need to know what Fortuna is. Yeah, like just showing me like art, like literally asteroids I don't know. But basically because yeah, I don't see any conjunct the sun that I know, or the moon, or what's this? Like Hephaestus. It represents inner life and creative passions, manual dexterity, willingness to work, and often a sense of isolation and rejection. It means to be important when energies either come together. This is conjunct your moon. Strongly like a metal alloy, or blow apart mighty like a volcanic eruption. There seems to be intense physicality with a symbol, and just as the mythical Hephaestus had a limp, there can be a physical disabilities or a sense of being different, or of somehow disliking one's appearance if this asteroid is strong or linked to the ascendant, which it's not. It's linked to your moon. These types of people think and feel things very deeply, sometimes too deeply, which that makes sense with the moon, and sometimes feel awkward or misunderstood or rejected. Social skills are not always well developed, and this asteroid, this fixed star Hephaestus, it's Hephaistos, does not seem to show up strongly amongst those who suffer from does seem to show up strongly amongst those who suffer from depressive illnesses. Okay. So we found one asteroid. Okay. And then let's see. Okay. Valentine conjunct Mars. See, I don't know what asteroid Valentine is. I mean, it's a love asteroid. So, I mean, there's just so many of them. Or fixed star asteroid. Yeah, it's the asteroid. This is like what I'm learning about now. I'm waiting for this book to come that basically like really breaks down the most important fixed stars. Because there's a lot that just don't mean like it's better not to get confused and say like, oh, this one means so much, and then it just doesn't mean shit. So yeah, and then conjunct the sun. That when I just read it was conjunct the moon, and kind of leave it there. So But I'm gonna try one other thing. Oh. All right, well, my solar fire just shut down. So I guess in conclusion, I highly suggest the follow-up to kind of figure things out, put together, your life experience with what I saw here. It's really like, I think it's sort of needed. Doesn't have to be right away, but it's up to you. There's no pressure. Yeah, really interesting chart. Lots of energy. And didn't I, in that post I did, what's going on here? I talked about degrees of astrologers. And it's not necessarily just astrologers. I talked in this post, like very briefly, like if you have these degrees, you could be an astrologer, but really it was more like, so one of them was 22. Yeah. So you have Denibola conjunct your moon. So like it was less like you will be an astrologer and more like you will be interested in like the mysteries of the world, right? So you have Denibola conjunct your moon. I think you commented that you had that too. So yeah, it's like potentially be an astrologer, whether that there's a follow through on that, who knows, but really like with Denibola, I think it's more about being very how do you say? Yeah, connected and really, really wanting to go deep underneath like beneath the surface and understand the real reality. All right, well, I'm gonna leave it there. Hope you enjoyed. Hope this gave you lots of insights, and hope we can talk soon. And if not, I would love to get your reflections on this. I love to get in writing so I can kind of see it, but teach their own. So anyways, thank you and talk soon. Bye-bye.